Welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker. And joining me is my co-companion is C. John Sarwell.
That's me.
That was, I don't know what that was. You know what that was? That was, I cannot remember the last time we recorded a, episode of the Say Report.
See, for me, that was joy. That was pure summer joy, Devin. It's it. We're in the throes of summer. Summer's here.
Summer's
time for love. It's time for freedom.
You know what? We haven't recorded an episode since summer. I mean, we recorded Howard the Duck last Thursday, but due to the nature of me and my quantum attunement, that was recorded the Wednesday before summer started. So this is our first real episode of the summer. Do we call this the Summer Report?
Well, I think now we have to. No, what we have to do is we have to promise everybody we will, and then at the end we'll name it something else.
All right, well, think of something better than Summer Report, Sejim.
Oh, it won't be better than Summer Report, but yes.
Anywho, welcome to the Say Report. It is a show about everything. We're gonna talk about stuff that happened.
Are you ready for the summer?
All I want to sing is Vacation, which is not a summer song.
You know, I want to cut to Zach floating on a bed in the middle of the lake. He wakes up and he's just pissed. Oh, those rotten reporters.
I like that Zach is our enemy. And I say that because I made him my enemy today just for fun. He posted a photo of him beating a level of Super Mario Maker 2. And he said, and this is why I'm ranked 30,400th in easy mode globally.
Yeah.
To which I'm like, why would you tell me your ranking? Because I was at 58,000. And I'm like, I'm going to get above 3,400.
So what do you got to do? Do you got to just walk in and sneeze and you'll be up above that? I can't imagine that with numbers that high, you must be jumping ranks pretty quick.
So I did it in about 20 minutes, not even, to be completely honest. 20 minutes seems fair, because I started at 5:30, and at 5:50, I believe I was above that. And my above that was 30,123. But now, I kept playing afterwards, and I'm 15,000th in the world.
Oh my, our hero.
It's just such a weird concept that they added that where you are globally ranked, and every second that I speak to you, my rank has to go down.
It must be, right? I mean, well, and what's interesting is it points to something with the with the way that Nintendo has kind of stepped up its game, all puns intended. But the way that it the way that Mario Maker really did change things for them, and the way that the Switch really did change things for them, in the way that there are people playing Mario Maker that care about that, and they are playing Mario Maker in a way that I competitively watch things like Dota or even Apex or PUBG, right? There's a thing that I see it. I see how all the controls work. I know how all the bits and pieces move, but I just cannot make them move in that way. And I'm in awe of it, and I do love that. It's like watching somebody do a perfect run of a video game. You're just all right, I've won this game, but I've never done it in 3 hours with 100%. That's just nuts. And there's this beauty to it that I don't know if Nintendo ever really had on its own before, what you and the guys do in things like speedrunning and even in doing all of the different ROM hacks and all that stuff that are out there. That stuff is awesome, but that's all that's groupthink coming together, doing what groupthink does best, and I love it. But never before has Nintendo really been the forefront of making that a part of their own game. And I love it. I love all this shit. Mario Maker kind of really brought it to light. And then when the Switch came around and controls were better, Smash Ultimate really kind of became a huge thing where people were just here are all the moves I know online. And now here we are with Mario Maker 2, and I'm adoring it.
Yeah, it's great. And to the point that Mario Maker, the first Mario Maker, is a game that I bought the day that it came out, and I beat the story mode of that one that
Quote,
same
unquote.
day, and then I tried to return it because it came in a cardboard box and it was unwrapped inside. It was not a packaging like high point for the Nintendo company, to be completely honest. But I'm like,
Well, it also came with like a 6-inch thick instruction booklet too, right?
Yeah,
like that was the reason it came in that box. Yeah.
So, but it like came in a way that it's like there's no way to prove that this was ever opened or used. There was no shrink on this or anything, and I was like, I got bored with it in a weekend, and the reason behind that was that Nintendo put together Super Mario Maker in a way that you couldn't have every building tool available for 7 days. Like, you had to be building and playing the game in order to unlock the ability to build more in-depth worlds.
Yeah, well, unless you pro strat it, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, you could definitely
as somebody that went deep into Mario Maker, there were ways. I mean, even beyond the clock setting thing, what they started to do, and this may have been something that they added later. It might not have been right out of the gate, but what you could do is it was based on two things. It was based on coming back, like you were saying, like it would clock time from like, oh, you logged out a day ago, here's the new day. But the other thing it would do is it would clock playtime. So if you also played for like 6 hours, it would start to unlock stuff. So you had two options, and neither one was going to suit anybody that wanted to do it quickly. Let's put it that way.
Right. And well, first of all, I am not buying a game like Super Mario Maker to make. And that's not me. But I want to play. I want to play levels. And if you're locking the tools to build levels behind like time, as someone who just wants to play, there was not enough there to make me happy.
Yeah, I would argue there wouldn't have been anyway, because it was going to take people a while to get used to that tool set and really get their thing going. You know, if you had bought it a week later, I wonder how you'd feel about it.
Exactly. And I mean, I did go back to it and I had fun. Like, it was about a year later that I finally jumped back because they did not accept the return. I'm like, at the end of the day, I was happy. I'm actually a little regretful that I sold my Wii U, but the cost, I got like full price of the console 3 years later for that console. Oof. And that's how I bought my Switch, basically. Selling my Wii U funded me getting a Switch. And since the Switch really became like the landing ground for all of the good games from the Wii U.
Yeah.
But they did learn from that experience that I had. So everything is available to makers from the beginning. So I have already played crazy good levels just on easy mode.
Nice. Did they do any type of importing from one? Any sense of like, hey, you worked for a long time on these levels, bring them on in?
I wouldn't blame them if they didn't. I honestly can't tell.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I was also
thinking Nintendo, that's a little too forward thinking for Nintendo, but
right.
But benefit of the doubt.
There's a chance that might happen, but that would be something down the line. Like, we're going to close down the servers on Super Mario Maker, but all of those levels will be added into the next update to Super Mario Maker 2. So
as long as you're still on your Wii U, put this code in on it, save this to a Dropbox, and then re-download it from this other system.
No, because, I mean, that's how Nintendo does stuff. But all those have to be on servers, right? Otherwise, I could only play levels that you built while you're online playing.
Oh,
and that doesn't work. So,
yeah, no, we know they're on servers because you were limited to how many you could put up there, and they were super strict about, like, look, if nobody plays this thing for 3 days, we're ripping it down. We don't have room for this shit.
Right.
So, like, they definitely have it safe somewhere.
Well, you did go deep into this game, way deeper than I did.
Oh yeah, man. I was playing Mario Maker. I was making levels for forever. I was designing full worlds with the limited world building that they did in 1. I know they've expanded that for 2, but in 1 they would let you at least string together 4 levels and stuff like that. And I was purposely building out worlds that would like teach you to play. Like, I was trying to go back to old school Mario logic. Like, all right, this first one's going to teach you that you have to learn how to jump. The second one's going to teach you that you have to learn how to run and jump. Now double jump, but bounce off a Koopa and get up here, like that sort of thing. Like, I was going hella deep into that shit, and now it's all gone because it was all on the Wii U.
Right. And I wonder if, again, like, they'll implement a mode like Classic, and you can access all of those classic Super Mario Maker levels. I mean, I think they'd be kind of foolish not to do that, but I would understand why they wouldn't want them available right from the start. And
Yeah, my thinking is if they're not available from the start, what's the point of them?
well, I mean, I
Like,
get that, but it's just one of those things where it's content and people dig content. It's
yeah,
one of those things where you don't want it available right from the start because then people won't be building content because you have access to content that existed before.
sure.
But like a year down the line with this game, I mean, people are still going to be creating content, but if you can basically double your content by finding a way to integrate everything that came before, why wouldn't you do that?
Destiny. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
So,
No, I agree, man. No.
but yeah, so first of all, I apologize. This is a sincere on-air apology to you because you have mentioned that you're kind of down that you haven't gotten a chance to get Super Mario Maker 2 yet, and I didn't realize
I've not delved
that.
into that world.
What?
I've not delved into that world.
Yeah, but I didn't realize how deep you had like immersed yourself in the original Super Mario Maker world. So I didn't realize how big like a stab it was every time I was casually talking about it with Zach. So apologies, like real apologies.
It's fine. No, man, no. It's. I mean, like, I look. I can't be mad that people are enjoying the game. It's just, it's a real bummer because, um, it's a definitely fear of missing out issue where like this particular world that we live in with video games and movies, we've talked about this before. If you're not in and right when it starts, it almost feels like you end up so far behind that you can't recover. Now, the one thing I will say is that Nintendo has never made me feel that way. I feel like every time I do feel that way, it's a game like Destiny. It's a game like Halo. It's like one of the reasons that I am in in as big a love with Borderlands and that world as I am is because I was there in the beginning, so I don't feel left behind. And it's not a matter of like I was there first, I'm the greatest fan ever. It's a matter of I was there as this was growing, so I don't feel like I can't compete. Fuck a Call of Duty game nowadays. I wasn't into Call of Duty early enough in my life, and so now I'm past the point where I think I could be. You don't make a new fan out of Call of Duty from somebody past their 30s. I think, like, and I just don't think you could do that. you know.
Right, which is why I think there are so many FPS games that have sprung up to try to collect those like dregs who are not part of the Call of Duty cult.
Yeah.
And they just don't have that same staying power.
But Nintendo is definitely a system for all type. I mean, that's their entire mindset, and so I don't fear that. I don't have that actual fear with this game. It's just it's born out of that natural fear with video games.
Right. I think you're going to be fine, and honestly, I'm excited for you to get your hands on it, just so I can play the levels that you specifically build.
Yes, it will be fun.
That was ominous. That was way more ominous than I thought it was going to be, and that's not a lie. That's true. That was more ominous than I expected you to go, Siege. But I'll also say this: like we've talked a lot about the making and the course world stuff. 120 pre-rendered courses by makers at Nintendo exist in the story mode.
Nice.
And that alone was like worth the cost of admission for me.
Yeah.
Because it's an actual in-depth story mode that already people are trying to route for speedrunning because of just how in-depth it is.
How weird does it get?
It gets pretty weird. Like if you just do the levels proper, it does not get weird. Because you start out at okay, so Super Mario Maker, you have Undo Dog and his Undo Rocket.
Right.
They've completed building the castle at the beginning of Super Mario Maker 2, but there's an Undo Rocket, and Undo Dog comes over and steps on it, so all the work they did in the castle just goes away. So the central conceit of Super Mario Maker 2 is Mario is taking jobs from regular Toad, and then he gets the money from those jobs and goes to Toadette, and she builds parts of the castle. And then once you start building something, also the amount of jobs that you complete tie into how much of the castle is completed. So like you want to lay a foundation, once you say yes, here's the 1,000 coins to start laying a foundation of a castle, you have to complete 3 more jobs before that foundation will be finished. So it's like really cool. It stimulated my mind in a way that games haven't before, if that makes sense.
It's capitalism, the game. I love it.
But you're dropped right between those two people, and you can get plenty of gratification just running between them.
Yeah, I like that they're going back to Mario's blue collar working roots here. That feels really good.
Oh man, I played a level today called Wrecking Crew Castle, and that's what I'm like. Yeah, he's just the Wrecking Crew character in Super Mario Maker. And I feel like we all forgot that game. I feel like we all didn't get a $1 copy of that game in our 20s and be like, this is a game. I'll beat it, I guess.
I was too busy playing Climb Your Friends. But
but yeah, so you can just bounce between them and complete the castle. But if you then explore like the castle grounds, you find Mr. Eraser, who basically commits Harry every time he erases something from the world. But then he gets better. But like, there's a moment to watch him erase himself from existence. Like, you feel for that. And then you find like bricks that are called Partrick. Like, it's like Patrick with an extra R in there. I'm like, what is the joke here?
I don't know.
And if you complete his 3 things, you can go up to the sky, and then you find a pigeon, and he talks to you.
Meanwhile, people are making some pretty crazy ass levels.
Yeah, or if you just want to play these levels that people are building, you can bypass the story mode. But 120 levels, like, from Nintendo, that's a Mario game, as far as I'm concerned. There's 96 exits in Super Mario World, which, that's my gold standard of Mario games. But it's great. And just, I don't want to ruin anything else for you, but some of the throwback parts that you can unlock through story mode, I'm excited to see them implemented.
Cool.
So
sweet. I'm very excited.
So yes. And also, I think I might be a little bit on this game because I got a hell of a deal on it new. I cannot believe that they just charged me for a Nintendo Switch game $50. It was not coded in the system as Super Mario Maker 2, so I don't know what happened, but I'm glad I went to Walmart early Friday morning to just pick up a copy of the game.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, and like I said, I'm happy, and I am in love with the fact that people are out there loving it. And like you were saying, the more people that play it, a game like this, the bigger it gets, the better it gets. So maybe waiting a bit is just going to do nothing but benefit me. Just cannot wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. Honestly, now that I know how deep into the world you are, I'm excited to play a Siege and Built level.
People used to hate me, but yes, we'll do this.
Yes, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be wonderful.
All right.
So Super Mario Maker, that happened. That's been a big part. But also, I saw some movies, and I feel like I haven't given them their proper. Is that fair to say?
I'm sorry. Did you expect me to jump in and be like, "No, this is not a movie podcast"?
Well, I didn't know. Well, I don't know if you have something that you want to talk about, because I kind of introduced SMM2.
No, man. I mean, like, it's been a crazy week. We did Howard earlier in the week, and then since then I've just been having all these weird Marvel feels. Spider-Verse ended up on Netflix this week, so you better believe that got watched. I ended up redoing Spider-Man Homecoming, and I don't know if we really talked too much about that last week, but that got me really excited for what's coming. As somebody in our group that I know probably tops the enjoyment of Endgame, like if you had to rank us as who enjoyed it the most, I think it would probably have to be me. And and that includes any outsiders as well that have found their way onto this ragtag boat that we call the Say Report. And so like it's not like I in any way feel like it needs to be saved or to go anywhere. Or, I don't know. But I am excited for something new. I am excited that what is done, and I'm excited that we are moving on to just some new shit in the Marvel universe. And so I think that it was really refreshing for us to do the special ep that we did last week, because it was a nice bookend of everything that I'm feeling right now, and it really got me going again for Spider-Man this week, and God knows what in the future.
Right. I'm excited for Far From Home because I'm ready for the Infinity Saga to be over. So the fact that it is the coda to the Infinity Saga, I just want to see it. I want to see it all ended. And I know that sounds like awful, but like I'm done with this story. And not in a negative way. The Infinity Gauntlet was the first major crossover that I owned every book of. Like I've talked about it. So it was cool that was the thing that the movies decided to focus on.
Yeah, and I mean, from an objective standpoint, standing back and seeing what's happened over the last 16 years, they fucking rocked it, man. But it's always nice when people can go out on a high note. Let's put it that way.
Yes. So I'm excited, but I'm bummed that I'm recording with you and not seeing Far From Home tonight. I think it's weird that there were no pre-release screenings.
Yeah, it's a Monday. I think it was hard for them to justify a Monday release. Yeah. I'm surprised that it's getting a full Tuesday, but maybe that was their compromise. Is, hey, if we're not going to be open for the full week, at least give us that premiere day, a full day.
Full Tuesday is weird, but also because I think of like everywhere I go see movies does cheap tickets on Tuesdays.
You think they'll do it for
Well, I know for a fact Cinema World, which is where I and Sarah Port Jr. will be seeing it, forward to probably them talking about it in their episode this week.
But yeah, they for sure will honor that. I know they always did in the past.
They're not.
Even special showings.
They're
really?
not, which was surprising to me. Because I was like, oh, it's Tuesday. I should probably buy the tickets in advance. And, it's cheap Tuesday, so I don't feel bad doing that. But all the tickets were the regular price. So I don't know if they've just stopped doing Tuesday pricing. I think they have. I think they decided that all showings are now $10 there, no matter what. So I think that probably evens out and gets people going there more often. So that they don't need that Tuesday bump.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact on Tuesday, they got snack deals. I'm taking advantage of those.
Coming for your snacks and your
I'm coming for your snacks and your vitamins. But I'm also excited to see Mysterio. It's so weird. Like, I don't know anything from Far From Home. I've only seen the original teaser trailer.
That's awesome.
But let's talk about the fact that in that teaser trailer, I saw Hydro Man, I saw Molten Man, I saw Mysterio, and if I had to name like secret pleasure villains for Devon Decker, let's see, Mysterio, Hydro Man, Molten Man. It's a good group of guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes because I have seen more than that teaser, so I have a very strong sense of where this is going, and obviously there's going to be surprises and twists and turns. There wouldn't be a good Marvel movie if they told you the whole story in the preview, but from what I know about it, I'm like I said, I'm happy to see this ending, and this feels like the best way that it possibly could.
Yeah, especially since Spider-Man. I mean, X-Men really kicked it all off, and we know for a fact that they kind of botched their swan song by deciding it needed a coda after Logan. But yeah, I think that ending with Spider-Man, it's really, like, we wouldn't have Iron Man if there was no Spider-Man. Yeah. To the fact that when the day that Iron Man came out, the original Iron Man, I found a copy of the trade paperback for Skin Deep, which was one of my favorite J. Michael Strichke like arcs of the Amazing Spider-Man. I couldn't tell you where it falls in like the legacy numbering,
the grand scheme. Yeah,
but it was so exciting because I had read it before, and I feel like it was that same year that I had read it. I feel like it came out in 2007, the same year as Iron Man, and that's why I'm like, I'm buying this trade paperback because one of the best parts about it is how big a part of that story Tony Stark is.
Yeah.
So I saw Iron Man, I bought Skin Deep, and it is so, Peter Parker, why aren't you working for Stark Industries? You're a goddamn genius. Why are you a school teacher? Come work for me. So he takes the job there, and that's what causes his friend Charlie to, like, go through a similar Spider-Man thing where he gets, like, molten skin, but he's not Molten Man, because that is very obviously Liz Allen's brother in the comics, which, like, if that's who Molten Man is, I'm gonna be super happy. If, like, they tie it to the first movie that way, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's something that, like, that would send me through the roof in the best way possible.
I got theories and thoughts, but I don't want to ruin anything.
Yeah, please don't ruin anything for me. So yeah, so that's where we are. So yeah, anything else before I go into the 3 movies that I saw? Because I'd like to report on them, and that's what this is. Man. This is the Say Report.
What did you see this week, Dev?
Well, I didn't see anything this past week, but that day that we recorded Quantum Attunement, I was on my way to a pre-release screening of Yesterday, but I didn't want to talk about Yesterday until it was available to everybody for at least one weekend. I'm going to break my own rules. I'm not going to give it a second weekend before I talk about Yesterday.
From what I understand, it's probably not going to get much of a second weekend, so go nuts.
Yeah, it's a garbage movie. I don't want to say made by garbage people because Danny Boyle is usually pretty good.
Well, and what's his name that wrote
Love Actually, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Richard something.
Richard Linklater. No,
I wish if it were Richard Linklater, I bet this movie would have been better.
He would have filmed it. He would have actually gone back in time and filmed.
Yeah,
it.
Exactly.
Right.
He would have started filming it before the Beatles existed, and it would have been.
But still using Beatles music.
Yeah. So Yesterday is not good, and I had to see it early because I had it written down to go see it the day that it came out because I saw the trailer and I'm like, I'm sold. You have my money. You have my time. I'm excited to see this film. And then I kept seeing that trailer. It became the trailer that played before everything. Yeah. And I'm not sure why. I guess because the Beatles have like near universal appeal.
Well, but also they probably realized really early that it was in danger of word getting out that maybe it was not the movie to go to. Richard Curtis, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, so I think that what they do, whenever I see a movie over marketed, it's a bad sign to me. You know, I won't say that across the board that's true, but I will say personally in my experience, once I start to realize what you realized, like, hey, I'm seeing this preview a lot and it's the same preview. They're purposely not showing me other like pieces of this movie. I'm starting to think that maybe other pieces of this movie are very unenjoyable.
Well, the issue that I have with a trailer like that is there's a reason why I don't watch trailers at home. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why, and that stems directly from when we were in college together because we were in with a group of people, and I'd like to think we both escaped that group of people. I can't speak for you. I can speak for me. But I know I escaped that group of people who would watch trailers 6, 7, 20 times the day that they came out. Mm-hmm. And that they would ruin the movie because they watched it so many times. Like they'd become over analytical of the film. And because I saw that trailer,
we never do that.
No, I mean we do it after we've seen the whole piece, right? It's unfair to judge a movie on a 2-minute thing that's trying to get you to go see it.
Yeah, for sure.
So because I saw the Yesterday trailer before so many films, every time I saw it, and it's the same trailer, you weren't wrong about that. Every single time I saw it, I got a little bit more thread was pulled from the sweater that movie was.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, I see exactly how this is made, and I see exactly what's going to happen. To the fact, there's going to be spoilers for yesterday. I'm saying it right now. As of the 30-minute mark, I'm going to spoil this movie. I don't think Sejan's bothered by that, and if you are, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
I'm not. Go ahead.
I had a theory, and I didn't want to share this theory with my mother or Dale or anybody. I shared it with Zach. Zach ended up being my confidant on this one because I needed to share it with somebody. And in it, he's riding his bike. All of the electricity in the world goes out, and he gets hit by a truck. And they allude to very heavily in the trailer that he was in like a semi-comatic state. Semi-comatic life, baby, baby. A semi-comatic state.
Yeah.
So immediately after the second time I saw this trailer, I'm like, oh, he's dead or he's in a coma and they're going to Wizard of Oz this shit. They don't do that. Spoilers again.
They don't take the easy road. Doesn't mean that it's still the right road.
They probably should have taken the easy road.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so here's the thing, right? It's not just the Beatles that are gone. And I feel like that's a big moment in this film that they completely wasted. Because there's a whole thing where he's searching the internet for the Beatles, and then he decides to search for other bands, and they all exist except for Oasis. So there's no Beatles, there's no Oasis.
That feels like a stupid just throwaway joke. Is it more important than just a joke?
It should have been more important than just a joke, because the whole reason that Lily James is his friend is because she saw him perform Wonderwall at like the 9th grade talent show and realized that she wanted to be his friend and manager. It was the moment when she fell in love with him, because there's a love story, and like unrequited love is a big part of this movie. Right. Because it's Richard Curtis. That's the only reason why.
And it's the Beatles. It's hard to ignore that love was a very big theme in a lot of their stuff. It'd be hard to do a Beatles movie and have there not be a love story.
I guess that's true. Really, if you're doing a Beatles movie, all you need is love. I'm living in it. But yeah, so I kept thinking that like the fact that Oasis also wasn't a band would mean something, because like it's very clearly, it's like, well, those are two things that he likes that don't exist anymore. So it supported my whole coma narrative in a way that like, oh, so things you don't like. And then his mom brings him a Pepsi and he's like, oh, don't we have any Coke? Coca-Cola gone from the world, completely forgotten. Which like that had to make Pepsi happy, right?
Yeah. Who paid enough money to make Coke completely disappear from the timeline?
So it's just like, okay. So again, supporting the comatic narrative. And then like later on he gets all stressed out and he's like, man, I could use a cigarette. And his friend's like, what the fuck's a cigarette? Cigarettes don't exist in the world.
What is so what is the thread here?
There's no thread. There's no thread. Like, you keep thinking that, like, it supports the fact that he's in a coma.
Or something. Like, there's going to be something that explains all of these things completely. Like, oh, didn't you know John Lennon created Coke while he was smoking a cigarette? And because he didn't exist, like...
Oh, that's the big one. That's the big reveal that we're not even there yet. So he plays at this inn on the roof, just like the Beatles did it to, like, end their career.
Mm-hmm.
And after he plays, he had played a show in Russia, and a guy, like, recognized the music and was like, oh, my God. And then, like, when he went to go to Liverpool to, like, visit the strawberry fields and, you know, Penny Lane and see the grave of Eleanor Rigby, because it was difficult to sing the songs without any emotional connection to those places, there's, like, a woman who's shadowing him the whole time. So those two people confront him before the show, and you're like, okay, here we go. There's got to be some fucking juice right now. This movie's going to have some juice.
We're going to find out what's going on. We're going to have a point. We're going to have a narrative. Let's do
this. And they hug him and thank him, because a world without the Beatles isn't a world without living in. And it's just like, So there's no consequences of him pretending to have written these songs, which is a whole big narrative point of the movie. Is that like he feels like a bit of a thief for capitalizing on the work of, Lennon, McCartney, I can't think of George's last name, and star Harris. Thank you.
Harrison.
George Harrison, right? That's what I didn't know if it was Harris or Harrison. Like he feels
looking at pictures
bad.
of Richard Harris right now. Sorry.
This whole thing's like, so it goes away, and they come and they like completely take away his guilt about that, and they're like, yeah, we don't know why, we remember but nobody else does.
And then
they go, but maybe here's someone you want to talk to. And John Lennon, because he's alive in the world, he just never wrote music, so he didn't get killed.
Right.
So he's still alive, living on a beach. So he goes and talks to him and thanks him for the music, even though this John Lennon never wrote these songs. And he's just so
tell me, Devon, does this movie end with the Beatles just never existing?
Yeah, the Beatles don't exist anymore. There's a wonderful moment where I'm like, oh, finally, here's some more juice. So Ed Sheeran just like approaches him after a performance on like the BBC and goes as Ed Sheeran and goes, I lost my opening act for my European tour. Would you take the place? Your songs are excellent. Of course they're excellent. They're the fucking Beatles. And he's like, yeah, sure. Okay. So they go to Russia and they're singing, and USSR is what he performs in Russia. And it's a song that he hasn't done yet. So it's like the premiere of Back in the USSR is him performing in Russia. And Ed Sheeran's like, you wrote that on the plane over? And he's like, yeah, it just came to me. And he goes, that's it. We're having a song off. We each go to our separate rooms, 10 minutes. We come out with a completely new song. And all of our little groupies and entourage members, they judge us. They judge who wrote the better song.
Okay.
And it has to be completely new. Nothing that nothing you've been tinkling with. It needs to be a completely new composition. So I'm like, this could be a big turn for this movie, right? Because even if I'm feeling a little bit of guilt about the Beatles stuff, right?
Right.
I'm going to do something. Maybe I do one of my original pieces from before. Mm-hmm. Because it's established that he had original music. Like, he was a musician before he decides to, like, rip off the Beatles in a world that never knew them. And, nope, he comes out and he does a Beatles song. And Ed Sheeran is, like, shook to the core. And he goes, I am Salieri to your Mozart. And I'm just like, what is this movie going to go there? Like, is it going to have Ed Sheeran acting like a fucking crazy person? Doing his best F. Murray Abraham? Like,
but also, like, at any point, how are you supposed to be rooting for this main character who's doing nothing but cheating his way through life at this point?
Right. Oh, because he feels bad about his Siegen.
Not bad enough to stop.
Nope, not bad enough to stop. That's a very good point. But yeah, so he says that whole Salieri thing, and then fast forward, and they have this whole big meeting with like the multimedia. It's like a ridiculous name, like a made up name for like a cadre of all the people who influence society and popular culture. And they're like, yes. What was that?
The cabal of pop music.
Yes. And it feels like, okay, so this is also supporting the chromatic narrative because it totally wouldn't be called this. And the way that these people are acting is so like what someone's idea of the music industry would be, not what it really is. But they decide that he's going to do it. He's going to be like the guy. And the whole marketing push behind his music is that he is one man doing it all. No samples, no backing band, no collaborators. It's just Jack. But they don't call it just Jack, which was the joke I made in the theater where they're like, only Jack. And I'm like, I would have gone with just Jack because I love Will and Grace. But also, this movie's fucking insane at this point. It was just like, just commit, guys. Just lean into it.
Yeah.
So they go on this whole big thing about how he does not collaborate. He doesn't do anything. Cut to him in the studio recording Hey Jude, and Sheeran is there. And it's the scene in the trailer where he recommends calling it Hey Dude instead of Hey Jude. And I'm like, this guy compared himself to Salieri. You're going to take his advice? Did you see Mozart? Or does that not exist in this world, but Ed Sheeran can still make the reference? It's nuts. But he did it in this world where the Beatles never happened. It is officially Hey Dude, is what that song is.
Okay.
And that might be the thing that, like, just shook me to the core more than anything else.
That's just upsetting.
Yeah.
Because it's just a bad joke. It's not a meaningful joke in any way. It's just oh man.
I mean, it's good as a joke, but then, like, if he writes off Sharon's suggestion, because...
Well, right. It's a fine moment for Sheeran to say it, but for it to become the like...
Right, because the other two people, the only other two people in the entire world who remember the Beatles are like, what were you thinking with Hey Dude? And he's like, it was pressure from the management. They didn't understand the Jude part of it. And he's just
okay,
like,
wait a minute. Is this supposed to be it? Is this supposed to be the point? Like, it's supposed to be about how the Beatles could not exist in the world today because the music industry would not let them?
Okay. No.
I
I wish. Maybe that's it. But if that's the message, it missed and it failed.
Like,
real hard.
That just concept, as somebody that has not seen it but has only had these moments explained to him, like, it feels almost like that's an interesting point. So that like the music industry today would not allow a group like the Beatles to exist.
That's a better message than what I got from the film, because the finale is Sharon is performing at Wembley. Jack says, I'd like to come out and do a couple of songs. He does nothing but Beatles songs. Like, I thought this is the moment where he does Wonderwall at the end, because it's also where he's going to declare his love for his long-suffering friend who had feelings for him, but Jack never seemed to notice her. And at this point, she is engaged to the guy who recorded his first album. It's so convoluted. And I'm like, imagine if he fucking did Wonderwall. And, like, it triggered something, even though she never heard it. Like, they Chekhov gunned Wonderwall, and it never happens.
Oh, my God.
So,
that's so upsetting.
So, the last song...
Why not make it a Beatles song in the beginning?
Right. Why not make it All You Need Is Love, which is what he does. With, like, the full brass and everything. Totally ripping off Love Actually and the wedding sequence in the beginning of it. Because Richard Curtis is nothing if not a person who references his own music and movies. But, so he does All You Need Is Love. And then he says, my music is being released free on the internet right now because I don't deserve money for it. It should be free to the world. And Sejin, I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if anyone saw it. It made $5 million in its opening weekend. That's the end of Gem! The end of Gem is them saying, we're going to make all of our music free on the internet. Go and enjoy it. So then the end of this movie is him making all of his versions of the Beatles songs, which some of them are not very good. I'm going to be honest with you. His version of Help is just...
Oh, God. Well, I wonder if I was conflating what you were telling me with what I remember from when I saw Gem drunk at midnight at a fucking bar, but saw it nonetheless.
Yeah.
But I remember that movie being a lot about the industry and her realizing, you know, she has to, which is every young girl pop star movie out there, but she has to decide who she wants to be in that world. And it's just... that's so disappointing. Like, what is the driving force behind this movie?
The driving force behind this movie, if I had to guess, is the final line of it. So him and Lily James get together, they're happy, and we see, like, a fast forward of what their life's going to be. But then it's them alone in the house after they've made love for the first time. And he goes, I feel a bit like you know, Voldemort is lifted. Like, I'm Harry Potter and I've defeated him by, like, showing up the music industry. And Lily James is like, you feel like who? Harry Potter doesn't exist in the world credits. It's like there's nothing satisfying about the movie.
That's also upsetting because now it implies here's another thing everybody loves I'm gonna get to steal. And it's just like you're not a good person.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Is he supposed to be? Are we supposed to be like, oh, you're a charming dick? Like, is he a charming asshole?
No, I mean, like, he I don't know. Like, he's kind of doofy. Like, he's kind of Hugh Grant in Notting Hill, but, like, without the whimsy.
Mm.
She's more Hugh Grant, and it's so weird. It's such a weird movie. And, like, the big scene in the trailer of him on the James Corden show, and he's like, we have the two men who claims they wrote the songs, and it's McCartney and Harris, and Starr, because they're the only two who are alive. That's a dream sequence. That just is a dream that he has. That doesn't happen. So, like, this whole movie is him free of consequences for his actions.
That's weird.
I'm so sorry. I realized that we were recording a podcast at the 45-minute mark after I'd been ranting about this movie for 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, we're not just playing Borderlands 2 and I'm just talking. No, this is for human consumption. But, like, it's just such a weird movie. And to the point where, like, my mother's like, how was it? And I'm like, no, it's not good. It's not good. Like, it wasn't like Endgame where I'm like, we're going to go see it again because I want to see your opinion. You have a right to see this movie, right? It could have been a million things that made Dale and I not really feel that viewing of Endgame. And actually, my second viewing of Endgame really elevated my experience with it. I'm happy that I saw it a second time. But yesterday is just like, no, do not waste your time. Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time with it again, Ma. It's not like Endgame.
So two predictions about this movie, and one does not negate the other, but they are kind of contradictory. But I bet that we hear a little bit of it when award season comes around. I don't think it's going to be anything that like steals the show or anything like that, but I bet you that it rears its head during award season.
At
maybe
least
just
the
Golden
Globes.
Yeah.
Fuck, we are the same person sometimes.
And then the other thing is I predict that this is one of those movies that fades away. That like you one day you think about like, man, remember that movie yesterday? And then you think about the fact that like, is it even available on DVD anywhere? You go looking for it. There's like a $60 copy of it on fucking Amazon that's like 10 years old. Like it strikes me as the response to that movie, which should have been so much bigger because it is the Beatles. This is nuts that this is a movie about the Beatles and this is how we feel about it. The world, and not just you, but the world in general seems to feel the same way about this film. And the fact that it's going to be basically disappear is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's not Meet the Beatles. It's Meet the Beatles. And it is not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
man.
Weird. I can't imagine that it gains like a cult following. The weirdest thing about it is that you see this movie and you're like, man, I want to listen to the Beatles. Don't need to see that ever again.
Yeah.
But I need to like, I got to get on my copy of Sgt. Pepper. I need some Rubber Soul. CJ, I'm gonna
I have a best of Apple Records somewhere.
I'm gonna take a brief reprieve from the movies because the other two I'm not gonna go nearly as deep in, but I do want to still share them and say my favorite thing about you. One of the things that really drew me to you friendship-wise is that your outgoing message on your voicemail used to be, the love we make is only equal to the love we take. Leave me some love, guys. Because, like, oh, man, this guy, he's so cool. Quoting the Beatles.
It was,
like it ain't
for
no
a very
thing.
long time. The only reason that ever stopped is because everybody stopped recording voicemail messages. But no, legitimately, Brian O'Wortman one day, back when I was like trying to make a go of it in theater stuff, she pulls me aside after a rehearsal one day and just goes, "I want you to know that you have one of the most unprofessional answering machine messages I've ever heard. You should probably change it." And I was just like, "I'm sorry?" And she just goes, "I don't know what you're saying, but I was very offended. I was like, it's a Beatles quote. Like, I didn't know how to be like, it's the Beatles. I think everybody's cool with it. Like, also, it's not the worst message in the world. Like, it's them just reminding everybody that, like, you got to love everybody because what goes around comes around. Like, that's important.
Yeah, it's karma. It's basically karma, but said through like John Lennon's craziness.
And she was just like, I was very offended by your message when I left, when I had to call you. It's very unprofessional. And I was like, okay, first of all, we work in theater. You want to talk about some unprofessional shit that happens in front of us every day. But okay.
Wow, Siege and Origins didn't see
Yeah.
that happening.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's
Man, now you make me want to go record a good outgoing message. I gotta go think of one.
that made me so happy every time that I heard it, because I'm just like, wow, that's so nice. That's like a message. And at the time, like, one had just come out, like not just come out, but like 2003, I think one came out. That like
Yeah.
24
Well,
Beatles
the
number
whole
ones.
yeah, the Beatles resurgence. I mean, we
Yeah,
also in that first year, I think we were all together at URI. Wasn't that the year that uh the musical there came out?
Across the Universe.
Across the Universe was like a big thing at the end of that year, and on top of that, the Beatles Cirque du Soleil was right around the corner. So like it was a weird time to like be kind of
You
a
were
tangential Beatles fan through my parents because I grew up on them. In fact, have we ever talked about the minivan that I
no.
that I like learned to drive? The tape stuck in the tape deck because everybody drove that car that had a tape stuck in the tape deck back in the day. It was the White Album. So like, oh no, it was Abbey Road. I apologize. It was Abbey Road. So back to front to back to front, I listened to Abbey Road nonstop throughout the last 2 years of high school as I drove that van around before Zach killed it.
Of course, Zach killed it. That is the
Oh yeah,
most
Zach drove
believable
that van
thing
to the
about
ground.
that story.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, but it was just like it was almost like you were like this proto Beatles fan for our generation, quoting the end. Because I'm just like, who quotes the end? Nobody. Who knows the end? Like it
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
like really cool. Like I'm like this guy. 12 years from now, we're probably gonna do a podcast together.
Don't know what a podcast is, but I'm gonna make one.
No, podcasts had come out because I was listening to the Bare Naked Ladies podcast. They were
Also
like
in
one of the
Canada, though.
first. It was weird. It was a weird time. The other two movies that I saw were Anna, which perfect Luc Besson movie, one of the good ones.
Nice.
Um, it reminded me of A Most Wanted Man. Have you ever seen
Okay.
that? Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's
Yeah.
final film. That it like not beat for beat, but just A Most Wanted Man is very soothing to me, which is so crazy. Like it just like invites you into its world. It pours you a glass of sherry, and you just like listen to the story. Anna did the same thing, and I loved that. I was so soothed by a film about espionage and murder.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like
No, from
those
what I
don't
understand,
happen
it's
anymore.
yeah. No, from what I understand, it's a hell of a good little like indie action smorgasbord. From what I understand, from what I hear, again, have not been able to get out to a damn movie. That's not true. Saw 101 Dalmatians, the live action version.
Lucky you, actually. That's a pretty cool movie. I like that one a lot.
I do like Lucky.
Sorry, that was a weird laugh. And the other one I saw was Toy Story 4, which seems
Oh.
oddly relevant since a year ago I was talking about Incredibles 2 and how it felt like just such a cash grab. It didn't feel like anyone was really invested in it. And I kind of feel the same way about Cars 3 in a lot of ways, where like the narrative I didn't think lived up to Cars 1, which is
Just
really
so everybody's
saying
aware, I
something.
disagree completely on both counts. But yeah,
That's
yes.
fine. You're
Yes.
allowed to disagree. At the time, you hadn't seen either of the movies, so it was just me talking.
Cars 3 and Incredibles 2, I definitely disagree on both counts.
Okay,
Uh,
that's fine. I mean, I don't have any love for either of them, but that's me. That's my thing. Toy Story 4 felt like they had more to tell. And aside from one logistical wrinkle that I still haven't been able to iron out, I think it's quite a good movie.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and from what I hear, quite enjoyable. So I'm not surprised. But now I have to see it to figure out what the wrinkle is.
Dude,
No,
you
I
can
gotta see
probably get
Spider-Man
the
first.
wrinkle
That's gonna
from the trailer. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I actually have not seen a trailer for
Oh
it.
God,
It is, I
then
have
I'm not
seen
gonna
nothing.
say anything more. Just like there's one logistical wrinkle that every time I think of Toy Story 4, I'm like, I really liked that. Hey, remember this? No, we're not gonna think about that. Yeah, but maybe we should. Because maybe we should think about it and look for an answer. Because I still don't have one and it's bothering me.
Excellent. Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad that you have been having some good movie times on top of our
Yeah.
other times.
Well, especially yesterday, like Death of Cinema. I hate these movies that like make me lose faith in the art of cinema. And then to do like the Anna Toy Story 4 double feature and completely fill the cup again. Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This summer is going to be a weird one. It's not going to be nearly as weird as last year. Last year just was a weird year for film, and we talked about it a lot. But we've got a lot coming around the corner. You know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is this year, right?
Yep.
I'm curious to see where things go with that. You know, his second to last film, if he's to be believed. You know, so on top of that, we have who else is making a big one this year? We had Aladdin come out and come and go, and from all accounts, quite enjoyable. Surprised we didn't hear more about it.
You say come and go.
Lion King,
It actually just became Will Smith's most profitable film.
Good.
It surpassed
Fuck yeah, getting back on
Independence
top.
Day
Yeah.
over the weekend. So
It's just weird that we haven't been hearing more about it, like in the world. Like, where's the YouTube presence? Where's the social media like blow up of this thing that like we all love? We'll get it with Lion King.
yeah, I think it's gonna happen with Lion King. I think the problem is they packed too much into the summer. I think what Disney is seeing right now is the issue with owning everything is you're competing against yourself.
You start cannibalizing yourself.
Yeah.
Now, we say this knowing full well that Disney will be fine. Like,
Right, no.
This is not one of those death of Disney stuff conversations.
No, that's not what this conversation is at all. But I think it's the reason why Aladdin kind of fell to the background was, I mean, so Disney this year, right? Just honest looking at it, starting with Captain Marvel in March. Mm-hmm. And then Endgame in April. And Endgame has been such a freaking thing to talk about because it's competing with the Avatar numbers. Yeah. Like, that's what it's fighting about. So Aladdin comes, and it's still overshadowed by Endgame.
Yeah.
And, you know, Captain Marvel, there are people who are saying it's only as popular as it was because of Endgame. So, like, Endgame, I 100% disagree. Having rewatched Captain Marvel, that movie was excellent.
Yeah.
And it sucks that, like, there are people in the industry saying it got a boost because people couldn't go see Endgame because it sold out, but they still wanted to see a Marvel movie, and Captain Marvel was still there to catch those dollars.
Because that movie made plenty of money before Endgame even touched it.
I know that.
So
I understand that.
That is a poor argument.
But it's an argument that I've read from two different sources. And I think that's why Aladdin, again, didn't really see anything. Oh, I also forgot about Dumbo. Dumbo came out in that interim between Captain Marvel and Endgame.
Yep.
And that movie came and went.
Yeah. Well, and now we have Toy Story out there. Wreck-It Ralph 2 was earlier this year, wasn't it?
Wreck-It Ralph 2 was November of last year.
December, November last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, looking down the pike, I mean, Disney also has Star Wars this year.
Right. So like they're dropping Spider-Man this week, right? And I, as much as I liked Toy Story 4, nobody was really talking about it. Like it felt like everybody was a little apprehensive to see it. And I feel like Spider-Man is going to completely blow it out of the conversation in the way that Endgame overshadowed Aladdin. And then we're going to have Lion King come out, and it's going to be like the last big Disney thing before Star Wars. So I think we're going to see that YouTube and social media presence from Lion King. I mean, it's something that I've been seeing anyway from people like joking, I got kicked out of Lion King because I kept asking what lion is that? And all the pictures of the posters, like, how am I supposed to tell these lions apart?
I think you're going to be okay.
They're too realistic, Sejan. I don't care. But, like, it's already had the social media presence. So it's already been eating up the people who would be talking about Aladdin. I mean, the fact that you didn't know that Aladdin had just outdone Independence Day is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I know that it's been popular and I know people have been really enjoying it. I just haven't heard hide nor hair from it, since it came out. Now, in fact, I've actually kind of seen that as a good thing, considering some of the stuff that I was worried was going to happen with it. Again, not because of the movie, but because of people's reactions to it. Because as I sit here thinking about that argument that not that you're making, but that you're pointing out that's going on with Lion King right now, all I can think is, that's a real fucked up conversation to point at a version of Lion King that's going out of its way to have a lot of African American actors in it, and then your first critique of the movie is they all look the same. Dude, like you really got to take a second to really swallow that argument and really think about it before you start saying shit like that, idiot.
Plus, they're lions.
Well, right, but, and they're fucking but they're a pride of lions. They're a family. There's supposed to be a sense, should be a sense. And one of my favorite things about the animated movie, this is going down a hole we don't need to go down, and I'll end it after this. But one of the things that I love about the movie is when Simba grows up, there is that thing where you realize he is Mufasa's son. Like, there's such a look to him that you're like, oh my god, that is through and through Mufasa's son. Like, it's beautiful, and so it's just upsetting. That's such a stupid critique of a movie that hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah. You're not wrong in any way, shape, or form. How do you think Jon Favreau feels about the fact that he's going to have, like, what appears to be a semi-large role in Far From Home, and then a movie he directed is going to be competing against it? Like, it's just so weird. Like,
I think he loves it. The big thing that I've been also doing the last couple of weeks is the Chef Show came out on Netflix. Highly recommend. You know anything about this?
I know that it's him, like, cooking. It's not his character from Chef, right?
Except that, no, it's not his character. It is him. Except that the deal is this was born out of Chef, the movie. So it is heavily based on that. It is about how when they started making Iron Man, and Gwyneth Paltrow was one of the first guests on the show, and they talk about this, and Robert Downey and Tom Holland and all these guys show up later down the line. But, like, when they started making Iron Man, there was a very particular food truck on site that would stop by every day, and they would run to it. They loved it. And so they started, like, seeking it out, and apparently it was, like, really hard to find. He fell in love with this chef. It's what led to him making Chef the movie, is because he's like, I love this guy. I love his food so much. I'm going to make a movie about this particular style of food and all this stuff. And so he ends up hiring that guy to be the chef to teach him how to cook for Chef the movie. It all comes back around with this TV show because it's him and that chef cooking together for every episode.
So
it's amazing. The dude, it's the dude that inspired him to make Chef, that had been there throughout all of the Marvel stuff. So it's like it's this huge celebration of everything Favreau that I just thoroughly enjoy. So when it comes to the stuff like Far From Home and Lion King and all this stuff, I think the dude's just fucking sitting pretty and loving it all. I think that he feels super comfortable and at home in the Marvel stuff. I mean, he is the kind of the driving force behind the creation of that universe, and had the smarts to be like, I cannot be the guy to run this whole show though, and like walked away when he needed to. I love it. Like, and I think that he fits perfectly and is happy in this stuff now. And again, having seen the previews that you haven't, I'm very excited to see what happens. And like, I'm very excited to see your reactions to it, especially because of your love of Tony and Peter being together. Man, yeah. And so looking at Lion King coming out, I think he's also doing the really smart thing. I think he's taking a very big step back from the face of that movie. For Jungle Book, he very much was like the driving force. They were like, hey, we got the guy that made Iron Man in here who's about to make this Jungle Book story. And then it came out and it was amazing for all other reasons, not just him and his style, but also like the acting and the man, the look of that movie is just something else.
And I think that he's good.
Well, and I think he's making a really smart move here with Lion King. We can talk about the fact that they are just lions, but it is a very representational film. It's going to be a very representational film. It's going to be seen as one. There's no avoiding it. Again, going out of their way to make sure that they've got a very particular type of cast, going out of their way to make sure that their story is being told in a respectful way to history, like writ large. Like there's a lot of stuff going on that they are being very smart about, and one of them is Favreau not really taking a big spotlight like on this particular movie yet. I'm sure if it does well, they'll put him out there, but for right now, they're letting it sit up front that like, hey, it's Donald Glover and Beyonce this time around, and hey, we got James Earl Jones back. Like they're going out of their way to push that stuff first.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, because I feel like I haven't heard anything about it. Mm-hmm. And I want to keep it that way because, I know Lion King. Sort of the same way that I wanted to keep it with Aladdin. I didn't want to know anything about it. I mean, I got to see Aladdin. The fact that I haven't seen Aladdin yet blows me away.
Well, and now that Will Smith is back on top after a bad run of things, like he's been having some trubs at the
box office.
Thank you. I was going to say market lately, and I was like, what market? No, but at the box office lately, and like it was surprising because you're talking about a guy that had a run of 10, 11 movies in a row that were like the top banking movies. He just kept making more and more money. You couldn't go wrong with putting Will Smith in a movie for 15 years.
To the fact that it's a major plot point of Jersey Girl.
Yes. Yeah.
Leave it to Kevin Smith to like make it a plot point that like Will Smith is untouchable.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I think once Jersey Girl has been invoked, that's kind of the symbol that it's time
that we've gone too long
to wind it down, right? So, anything final from you? Any other summer plans that you want to?
Completely unexpected, but a wonderful nightcap to our adventures with Borderlands 2. They just introduced one last piece of DLC that's going to be the bridging connection with Borderlands 3. And I'm so excited because you and I did finish our run of Borderlands 2 mainline story. We didn't do much of the side quests at all. I think we ended up putting, what did we decide, 25 hours into that game?
About 25 hours in, yeah.
Yeah, out of 150 possible hours that we could have. So the fact that that's all that we did is kind of astounding to me that we were able to do that and finish the story. Thank you for going on that journey with me.
Thank you for taking me on that journey because I needed someone like you to pull me down that road. And I am now excited to try to do that with Borderlands 3 when it comes out.
I think that we're going to find that there's a lot of things about Borderlands 3 that are going to feel bigger and better than Borderlands 2 because we've had full-on discussions about the fact that is a 10-year-old game at this point.
Yeah.
But that's for another day.
Right. Actually, even once we're off mic, I was going to ask what your plans were for the 4th.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll definitely talk.
All right. So for me, the purge of Link to the Past is over. I didn't play all of June, which has apparently been something I've done the last 2 Junes. So good for me for making it a tradition. But I am looking into multi-world stuff, which I think I'm going to try to do with Zach. So I'll have that to talk about. But until next time, if you want to talk to Seijin about all of his Super Mario Maker ideas and anything else he talked about on this episode, find him on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you want to poke and prod Devon until he finally gives up his secrets about his feelings on Endgame, you can find him at Devon D. Decker.
And with that said, we're going to send it off to the world's newest uncle, William. Please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sieben Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.